Reflections from Torch Trust, focusing on Christian faith and sight loss.
Hello and a warm welcome to Reflections from Torch Trust, the programme that focuses on faith and disability in today's world. I'm your host, Marilyn Baker, and I'm looking forward to being with you for the next 30 minutes. Neurodiversity has long been misunderstood, and people on the autistic spectrum have often been labelled as difficult, disruptive, or less capable, especially in earlier decades. Robert Noble is autistic and didn't speak until he was 4 years old. Growing up in 1950s and 60s London, he was often misunderstood. But through God's grace and his own perseverance, Robert has gone on to do remarkable work, including helping street children in Kenya through his charity, the Neema Society. He's recently written a book about his journey called I'm Autistic, Get Me Out of Here. Lynn Davies began to ask him if the book title was inspired by the popular TV show I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here.
So your book is called I'm Autistic, Get Me Out of Here. I have to ask, do you watch I'm a Celebrity, or did that title come from something else?
Well, I don't like I'm a Celebrity. I don't watch it, but I obviously have heard of it, and I watched it at the beginning. Well, it sort of came from there, but really sort of, I think I remember when I was sort of about 9, 10, my mother and aunt took me to Chessington Zoo, and must have been a bank holiday or a Saturday, and it was so crowded. And I can remember shouting something, getting into a real panic, and Paddy saying, "Get me out of here!" So that's partly why it's called that.
Do you feel like there's more understanding now for autism and neurodiversity than there was when you were growing up? And could you give a couple of examples?
Yeah, there's a big difference. I mean, when I was at school, and nobody knew about it. They just thought autism was something when people don't talk and you can visually see it. But I sort of found that I got into trouble all the time at school. I was told off, and even tying my shoelaces. I was the only one in the class that couldn't do that, and I was humiliated in front of the class. But today, there's a lot of understanding. That's the difference. Grandson, he's on the autistic spectrum. He's had some great help from specialists, and he's doing well now. He's really, really doing well.
So in terms of church, because you talk very much about your Christian faith, they can sometimes be really loud and crowded. What are some ways you have found to learn to cope in those types of settings?
I enjoy the music in church for a start. And usually the band practices before the service. So I go in early. I'm one of the first into church. My wife follows me later. She goes in for the hall for a coffee, which is too crowded for me. And I just relax and listen to the band. And at the end of the service, everybody congregates at the back of the church for coffee again. I can't take that. So what I do is, as soon as the service is finished, run down to the end of the church, grab my coffee, grab my cake, and get outside. And it really, people sort of they all know I'm autistic, and someone will come out and chat to me. So it's very nice. That's how I cope with it.
So your book includes some really funny moments. I enjoyed reading it. Do you want to share some other fun anecdotes that you've mentioned in your book?
Yeah, yes, it's my days in Harrods, and when you're dealing with customers, some are really difficult, and you've just got to control it. You can't lose your temper, you can't get cross with them, but sometimes it just gets a bit much. In those days, before they had the kennels, Harrods allowed dogs to go in the store, and I saw this woman with this dog, and the most expensive sofa. It put its leg up and did a wee, and I just blew at her. I exploded, scared the daylights out of her. But she was. I think it was a result of that. They then built a kennel outside the church, outside the store. Another one was, the funny thing is, when I was school, the metalwork class, the teacher always warned us that if they had a big electric drill with a big chuck, and you put the drill bits, you put those in there and you tighten it up. He said if anyone leaves leaves them in, they'll get 3 whacks with a cane because it's dangerous. Anyway, I did the same thing a few weeks later. Unfortunately, he wasn't in the class. He just popped out for a moment, and the actual key went when I turned it on, was left in, went flying across the room into the wall, and the whole class laughed their head off. And the teacher walked back and said, "What's going on? What's going on?" And luckily, nobody grasped me up, not even the school bullies. So I got away with it that time. The other thing was meeting a member of the royal family. Well, so I thought it. A very smart man came up and said, "I've got the Queen Mother coming up. Could you stay by your desk and I'll introduce you to her?" And I thought, wow, gosh, the Queen Mother. And when she came up, I realized it wasn't our Queen Mother. It was the Queen Mother from someone miles away, hundreds of miles away, thousands of miles away. And she couldn't speak much English. And I showed her around the antique department and showed her a screen. And she said, "Oh, this is wonderful. Have you any more?" And then he threw the interpreter. "Have you got any more screens?" I said, "Oh, there's one more over here." "Oh, I want. And I said, "Oh, sorry, we've recently sold this. You can't have it." She said, "But I want." She was getting into a pen. I said, louder voice, "No, you can't have it." She said, and so she took out some money. "I buy with cash. And this is for you. This is for you." And she had some notes. She wanted to bribe me. I said, "No, we don't do that here." Anyway, she spoke to her interpreter. And the interpreter says, "Well, look, this is a very difficult situation. Could you please contact the buyer and say that her Royal Highness will pay double?" I said, "I'm sorry, it's not policy for me to do that." And she exploded again, and I exploded. And you know what? I don't think she'd been out of the country, and nobody had said no to her. She couldn't cope with somebody saying no to her. I can look at the back of it and sort of laugh a bit, but it was a bit of a situation.
And of course, for you, this was just how it was. I think many people, especially neurotypical people, would have said, they would have bowed down to it really, but you were just really bent on staying with the right policy. And I think that's what made the story so funny to me, that for you, it was just how it was done.
That's right. That's right. I wasn't going to stand for it, even if it wasn't the rule. I would regard my customers as, I wouldn't put them in that position.
Listening to Robert's story reminds me how true it is that God really is everything to us. Our strength, our peace, our guide, our purpose. His presence doesn't take away our differences or our difficulties, but transforms them into gifts for His glory. Let's hear more now from Robert.
What do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about autism?
Well, people look at you, and for me, it just look like any other person, and they don't understand. They don't understand it. The people beforehand, before when I was a lot younger, and would think of me as being thick, stupid, and unintelligent. Yet people with autism can be very intelligent. Big firms are now using them for the top jobs, especially on IT. I met a young man about in his 20s, and he had a friend with him, and I said, "What do you do?" He said, I work in IT." And he mentioned a large oil company he worked for, and his friend says, "Come on, you work from home, and you're the top IT person. You design their programs." And there are many people, like Einstein was autistic. He had a line of suits all the same because he couldn't cope with a change of clothes, but he had a brilliant mind. Yeah, and those misunderstandings are changing because there's been a lot on television series of autistic people. There's been programs on autism. It's featured, quite big nowadays. So people will know about it. But the thing about it is, so many people have come. I've sold 140 copies of my book in 4 weeks, and what people say come back is that now they can see it, they can understand. They didn't understand before, but now they see it. So I think my book's going to help a lot of people.
And especially in a Christian context as well, where disability can sometimes be a bit sidelined, but you see autism as a gift from God. Can you explain a little bit more about how and why you see it that way?
Well, I say it as a gift of God. When I was 7 years of age, I became Christian. It was a Sunday school teacher who was absolutely wonderful. She told the stories of Jesus, and she told about her work as a missionary in China. And I was absolutely absorbed by that. And then she said to me, "Would you like to do something for these children?" And I said, "I want to spend my life raising money for these children." I realized I was a bit different to other children at that early stage. And, then I did see it as a gift from God. I put this in my book, and I think that God gives us gifts. God's made me this way, so this is the way I must celebrate it. And it's the same with you meet so many inspired disabled people who actually, they do see God working through them.
You've continued your love of working with children, and you do some really important work with street children in Kenya, which you write a lot about in your book. How is the sales of your book and the proceeds of your book helping with that work?
Well, I've had 70 years now. I'm 78, raising money for the various different causes. I worked for the local branch of Save the Children for 20 years. But then I went to Kenya. There was this pastor that came over from Kenya, and he had these pictures. Now, I was in the art and furniture business. I was a buyer for a firm, and I was absolutely taken back when I went and we fed the street children, because he invited me over there. He said, do come, and I took that as an opportunity. I had mixed feelings. It was traumatic, yet it was very rewarding. And I saw this boy when we were feeding him, and they said, well, he never talks. He's got a problem there. He just grabs the food and eats it. And then he looked down all the time. And suddenly he looked up and looked me in the eyes. And in his eyes, I saw the eyes of Jesus. It was incredible. And from then on, they introduced me to a lady who was building a home, a children's home for the street children, and she needed another 3,000 for the dormitories. I just said, "I'll get that," without thinking. And I thought, what have I said? What I committed myself for? Anyway, I got back to England to the church and talked about it in the service. And within 4 weeks, we had the 3,000, which was a lot of money in those days. That's going back to 1997. And the book also helps support that work, I think, by encouraging others, to take the plunge, do something brave. It doesn't have to be a charity work, but don't be afraid. Don't have fear in your heart. Already since sold 125, I make £4 a book, so that I've already got £600 to send to Kenya, which is great, really. The churches have been so supportive in buying the book. They've let me join their services. We've got a very ecumenical group, and it's really worked well.
That's incredible. And it's so encouraging as well that people are buying the book, and it goes to a cause that you're so passionate about as well. You also talk in your book about spotting musical talent and being great at spotting that. So what music do you like, and what makes a song stand out to you?
I like 1960s music. This was my time. I had three friends who were really close to. They were my saving grace, because they got on with me. They joked with me, didn't laugh at me, but they laughed with me, and it was really good. And we used to love Buddy Holly, and this is from the age of 9. I met these friends at Sunday school, and Buddy Holly died tragically, and I was really upset about that. But the Kinks was a group which we knew them. Ray Davis and Dave Davis came to our youth club, and also they were at the school. And the music master said to him, "Your brother today, your brother Ray, won't make any money out of this pop business. He ought to go into to music college." He's now Sir Ray Davis. How wrong could he have been? And I love the Sixes, and also Christian music. I do like worship music, some of the worship songs. And a friend of mine from church, a young chap, Jack Robson, he's a brilliant musician, and I love his music. He's on Spotify if anyone wants to listen to that.
Do you have any scriptures or Bible passages that gives you comfort on tough days and lifts you up on good days?
Yeah, definitely. My Harrods days with the Harrods Christian Fellowship, when Sandy Miller of Holy Trinity Brompton used to lead it. As I told you before, he was so inspirational, and he knew I chatted, opened my heart to him about things, and he gave me this passage: "I can do all things in Christ who gives me strength." And this is it. You've got to remember that at the good times as well as the bad times, because it's something for which I really cherish, and I think of that passage often.
And where can people find out more about your book and about the work you do in Kenya?
Well, we've got a website, www.thenema Society, that's NEEMA 30.com. And you can get the book also. It's on offer from the publisher of Kingdom Publishers, one word, Kingdom Publishers.co.uk, a lovely company who's not making any profit themselves for the book, but they're doing it for God. And it's a Christian organization, Christian publisher.
Well, Robert, it's been amazing having you on Reflections, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us today.
Right, lovely. Thank you very much for having me.
Robert's memoir, I'm Autistic, Get Me Out of Here, is still newly published, but we're hoping to make it available through the Torch Library in the future. Do keep an eye out for updates. Robert's story reminds us that it doesn't matter who you are, God can use you, and though disability may sometimes feel like a disadvantage in the face of ignorance, Robert's life is a powerful reminder that it can also be a divine gift. Well, I'm sorry to say we're all out of time for this week, but we'll be back again next week when we'll be celebrating Sight Loss Sunday. And don't forget, if you're blind or partially sighted and would like to learn more about any of the services provided by Torch, including the Hope for All project, our new chaplaincy service, our accessible books and resources, or our other groups, our client services team would be very happy to speak with you. The number to call for information and for song requests is 01858 438 260. That's 01858 438 260. Or you can email info@torchtrust.org. You can also find us on social media. Just search for Torch Trust on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram or YouTube. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reflections, and so until next week, from me, Marilyn, and everyone on the Reflections team, goodbye and God bless.
You've been listening to Reflections from Torch Trust.